good, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Fun with Dumb. We are broadcasting from a brand new studio. This is the first episode in the new studio, so things aren't really on the wall. Not much interesting artwork, but we got an interesting guest today. A director, filmmaker, music video director, now doing a lot of features, and also one of the people that gave me an opportunity to go into TV and film and acting. I'd like to be his, Leonardo DiCaprio to Martin Scorsese. You know what I mean? I'm here with OG Joseph Kahn. How you doing, sir?
Hey, man. Good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. Appreciate it, man. This is kind of long overdue. We've done like an episode of Hot Box together, where the car was hot box with no marijuana, just a smoke machine. But man, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come over here, bro.
No, I'm happy to be here. Let's talk.
Yeah, man. Well, there's lots to talk about. First of all, there's a brand new film that just came out. We shot this about 2 years ago. This is your third feature. Third. Yeah. It's called Bodied. You want to talk a little bit about the film? Yeah,
it's a battle rap movie. So I made a movie about what you do, or at least you used to do.
Yeah. No, this is amazing because this is a movie that like pretty much like a lot of us kind of, I mean, it's so easy for us to kind of get into because, this is like what we lived, and also like this is kind of how we met. We met each other because you're a fan of battle rap. Mm-hmm. Like, how did that happen?
I've been a fan of battle rap for years. Obviously, I've been doing rap videos since the early 90s. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't really introduced to the modern battle rap scene. I mean, I'd seen some Scribble Jam stuff. I'd seen some stuff on HBO. And actually, like around 2000, I wanted to reach out to Idea to write a Crow movie for me that I was on.
Wow.
Yeah. But then the modern version of battle rap became more evident to me when I watched your Tantrum battle.
Right.
And that thing sparked off a whole thing. And I fell on a rabbit hole just following everything.
So you mentioned, I mean, I know, for a lot of those who aren't familiar with your history, like you started off directing hip hop music videos in Texas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, was it Houston?
Well, I started in Houston, and I did videos for Rap A Lot, and, I did probably 30 videos there. And then after that, I started flying around, New York and LA and doing videos here.
Ghetto Boys music videos, Wu-Tang, Ahmad in the West Coast, a bunch of, classic rap songs. But, I mean, at that point, you're doing hip-hop music videos, but you're not necessarily, a rap head at the time, or maybe, a battle rap fan yet, right?
No, I'm not. I wouldn't consider myself a full-on rap guy. Oh, that's really funny because all I was doing was rap videos for 5 years.
Right.
And that's practically all I was listening to.
Right.
And in terms of the culture of battle rap, I was witnessing it on the street. I was witnessing people doing impromptu rap battles and quite frankly, and that whole thing of the dozens where people just make fun of people and stuff that. Well, that was happening to me constantly. Being an Asian dude in the ghetto.
On set?
On set. Like any random freaking extra could snap at the director because just I was an Asian dude.
That's hilarious. Yeah. And you're just like, all right, that's funny, guys. Let's just get back to work.
Yeah. I was like director bitch.
Right. Was there a style of music video directing with, because that's so early on where the style of rap video directing was happening, right? It was kind of being created. Was there a format you were following or somebody you looked up to maybe?
No, well, the big thing I was trying to do is in my very early career, I went into music videos because I loved David Fincher and all the stuff he was doing with Madonna and Paula Abdul and those type of videos in 88, 89, 87. By the time I started videos in 90, 91, and I hopped into rap videos, I was trying to sort of import that style over to rap videos.
Yeah.
But that shit was not flying. Nobody gave a fuck about where my camera was or what type of lighting I was doing. They're like, shoot that rim, shoot that ass.
Right. Yeah.
And so at a certain point you fight that a little bit, but then at a certain point, just for pure, financial, survival, you end up shooting the rims in the ass and all that other stuff, and you just and then you actually start realizing, well, maybe there's a reason they want to shoot the rims in the ass.
Right.
And I remember there'd be times where I'd be on set and they're like, no, we have to get the Mexicans in this shot. I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, we gotta, we live next to the Mexicans. They gotta represent in this video too.
Oh, there's all these different elements, right?
Yeah.
I feel that.
It was culture shock. It was culture shock. Because, I'm an Asian dude, that lived in the white suburbs. So I had no idea of any of this stuff.
Right. That's crazy. And then, the interesting thing is we met because this was like, it must have been, when was detention? It was like...
That was in 2010.
Wow, that's so crazy. Then it's been that long.
8 years.
8 years ago, literally, I did like a panel for like some like Korean like council of some sort or whatever, like a charity thing. And then David, your casting director, chased after me when I was on my way out, and I was like, "Hey, my director wants to meet you, blah blah," or like, he watches your battles and stuff. And I was like, "Okay, cool, thank you," like, not knowing who it was or whatever. And he was like, "Yeah, here's my card," and he gave me your name. And I went home and I like looked it up, and I was like, "Oh shit, I gotta follow up with this dude." Like, and then we met up, and then we were talking, and then that's kind of when you mentioned your second film project that you were about to work on, which was kind of like your baby, your passion project. And I was stoked about it, and I didn't know where it was gonna go. But then we finally started shooting it, and I was like, "Oh shit, I'm in a fucking movie," which is tight as fuck.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because when I wrote Detention with my co-writer, I wrote this Asian guy part, but I wrote him completely unorthodox.
Yeah,
Asians have really progressed a lot in the last 8 years. Remember, like in 2010, it's still like kind of like we didn't know what archetypes Asians are except nerds, right?
I mean, 2010 was still like pretty much 1999 for Asians in Hollywood.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean?
So I wrote this dude that was a nerd, but not a nerd, but cool, and it was all in the execution of who he was. So that like you essentially write a nerd character, because all those parts in Detention are archetypes and stereotypes, but you sort of flip them.
Right.
So the idea is that there's something really cool about him, but it wasn't really written to be cool. But I just wanted to cast him to be cool. And I remember looking for every Asian dude in Hollywood, and you were the only dude. You're the only dude that could authentically say those lines, because you have that weird way of speaking, that weird fucking K-Town / hip-hop shit that's going through your mouth. Like, and no one else could do that. And other people would try, but it just would not be authentic.
No, that shit was an amazing experience for me. And it was that was the first fucking thing that I've ever done, which is crazy. And it was the beginning of like getting a manager, an agent, having meetings with writers and shit like that. You know what I mean? It's a whole new world for me still right now that I'm navigating through. And I remember like as you were making these projects and shit, and you were like stressed out about working with these investors and all this shit, like I've experienced that shit in the last couple of years, so I know exactly now what you were going through.
Well, the funny thing is that you got introduced into Hollywood through essentially a home movie.
Right.
Because what I did is I went out to investors, but I was just borrowing money from them. It's like normally what you do is you get them to invest, but if the movie loses money, then they're shit out of luck. But what I did is I just took loans out, right? So I took out a couple $1 million in loans, and I'm on the hook for these guys, right? So if the movie doesn't make any money, which it didn't, then I have to write back a check to all these guys, right?
I remember you talking about all that because at that time, you were still getting booked music videos, and you were killing it in the commercial side, and all that makes good money, right?
Yeah.
And then you went into this passion project that's like your feature, but like you're throwing in like not really mad investors, it's like your pocket money, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. And you came out of that and you were like, oh shit, I'm still paying this off. I remember like you seeing your post like 2 years after.
No, dude, I ran out of money like probably the first 2 weeks of shooting. And so what was happening is that while I was shooting that movie, I don't know if you ever saw that Asian dude that you met, David Kahn.
Yeah.
He's my producing partner. He would go out for random investors, and every day during lunch, I would cut the film and I would show somebody and try to get them to put money into it.
Right.
So literally, I'm not kidding you. Like that movie shot for like 65 days. That's like 3.5 months. But every 3 days, I was collecting $50,000 or something like that, or every couple days. So I was like literally just getting 50. It's like it never stopped. That's how that movie was made, by me like literally just borrowing $50,000 at a time every couple days.
Is that the biggest like investment you've ever made out of your own pocket?
Yeah, that's definitely the biggest so far, and the biggest loss too. Like
that's crazy.
But you know what? I'm super proud of that film.
Right.
I think it's everything I wanted it to be. I made no compromises.
Right.
And I lost a couple million.
And you came back. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, the thing that's interesting is that I may have lost a couple $1 million, but in my head, I've created a film style and an ability to understand what I was doing.
Right.
That's worth more than the couple million I spent on it. And now I can make even millions more because I'm now weaponized with the knowledge I made off
Right. And that was like the learning process, beginning stages of having your own style.
Yeah, I mean, like filmmaking is interesting. It's not about the equipment you own. No one can make money off that stuff that well. It's about the knowledge in your head. So yeah, I may have spent a couple $1,000,000 to get that knowledge in my head, but now I'm weaponized to be able to like put that knowledge in anything, whether it's a commercial or a music video or whatever, and now I make millions more. So it wasn't a loss. It was like going to college.
I think a lot of kids, they do mistake in that it's all about the equipment or whatnot. Like that shit's not going to shoot itself, or like instruments aren't going to play itself. You know?
No, and it's funny because like people they get such tech lust over like the latest camera equipment or lenses or editing machine or software program.
In film, you see that a lot, you know?
Yeah, and they're just hooked on this stuff and they accumulate this equipment. But then what do you have to say with this stuff? Here's the thing. You know, filmmaking ultimately is not the skateboard. Like the skateboard's not going to make you like do a fucking ollie or like a kickflip. It's the skateboarder. You can do it on any skateboard. Maybe a certain type of skateboard can make you like work a little bit better, but ultimately that skill set is it has nothing to do with equipment, and that's filmmaking. Filmmaking, you're a skateboarder.
Right.
Go skate.
Yeah. No, I remember talking to you about this, how even with specifically music videos, that's not something you intended to do, right? Like that style of filmmaking you kind of fell into that more for money in the beginning to survive, right?
I did genuinely when MTV came out. I remember like music videos. Okay, well, here's the thing. Music videos I've always had an interest in because I watched MTV get launched. I actually have a vague recollection, and I don't know if I made it up in my head of watching MTV actually turn on its signal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I ever heard rock music, because I came from Italy, from Korea, and I came in like 1979. I remember 1980, 81 or something like that, I saw Joan Jett's I Love Rock and Roll on TV. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that's the first time I actually really heard rock music for real.
Right.
So like me and pop music, like I can't even imagine pop music without any music videos. You know, I think I'm the first generation to do that. I think now that's pretty much a standard idea.
Right.
But I'm like kind of the first. And I remember watching music videos all the way through, and to the point where I was obsessed with them.
Yeah.
But I was also obsessed with movies too, more movies than music videos. But when I finally had an opportunity to go to film school, very short period of time because I ran out of money. You know?
Yeah.
It just seemed like music videos was the cheapest way to break in.
Right.
It was easier for me to make a $500 music video than like a $5,000 short film or a $50,000 movie.
That's an interesting thing you mentioned, actually, about, because now it's like we watch a music video, it's a music video. Like, first time you saw a music video, what was it exactly to you? Was it like a musical? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's interesting concept to see it for the first time, maybe, you know?
It was nuggets of pleasure. That's all it was. As a kid, watching this thing for the first time. Like,
glamorous and just...
Yeah, and it, especially for a kid that like came from Korea, like that lived in Europe and then came to American culture. So I wasn't even like that familiar with American culture at all. By the time I came here, I was like 7 or 8 years old, and I lived in 2 different countries. Yeah. And so by the time I got engrossed in American culture and music videos were the way to in, it was just this fascinating nugget. They were short. You didn't have to sit through them for like 2 hours to understand them.
Sensory overload.
They were like cartoons, right? Like it's the same way that you would watch, but even a cartoon was longer than a music video. A cartoon you'd have to sit through 30 minutes with commercials. And music videos were like just the sensory thing of like 3 to 4 minutes. And the music videos, quite frankly, back then were so weird. Right. Like Tom Petty was doing his post-apocalyptic like videos. Billy Idol would do things like that look like Mad Max. Yeah. You know, like Rick Springfield would do like weird futuristic things. So it just, and remember, this is very early days of music videos. So anything went.
It's so tight because, you know, when you're coming from this, I mean, at least for me, just being such a hip hop fan and seeing all the music videos you directed from like the early 90s to now, even like up to like Eminem with the super pop like running around shit. But even before like the huge budgets, right? When you did stuff in the early 90s, like the amazing production value stuff you had, right? Like the whole neighborhood coming out, like 500 motherfuckers like on the street, blocking out the street with mad cars and all this shit. Like that shit is amazing to me. Like I love that kind of shit because you think back and to you, you're just like, oh, we're making it work with whatever we have. But to us, it's like, that's the real shit.
Well, I mean, especially the early days of music videos for me where I was working in the hood. And remember, I never, ever present myself as hood. I am basically a banana, yellow on the outside, white on the inside. Just like being stuck in the middle of the hood. And I remember having to do like these massive setups, right? And here's the thing: when we talk about him removed, like 28 years later, it all sounds relatively simple, right? Like he just got a bunch of dudes in the hood to walk around and then shoot a camera. But here's the reality of that situation. One, I'm running the company by myself. I'm like 20 years old. Two, I've got like crew members that don't know what the hell they're doing, just random people that I picked up off art school and stuff like that.
Right.
Three, I'm like running it through like financial stuff that like I barely can keep track because I'm literally writing checks, like literally checks by myself.
Right.
And like we're hiring like gangsters in the hood to be security / Nation of Islam,
right?
There's certain decorum that's not happening.
It's a community effort. Every time there's a video shoot, it's like a party. It's like
well for them it's a party. For me it's like this is work and I got to figure out how to make this damn thing. It was, trust me, like those early days in music videos were not fun. And that's just one example of the complication of like trying to get your shit together in a completely chaotic situation.
That's crazy because you must have built the interesting relationship because you shot several videos for certain artists, right? Like Ghetto Boys, you shot a few, right? Yeah. So at that point where they're just like, yeah, let's just call that Chinese dude one time again and shoot this video.
They do. I was that dude that would go in. What I ended up having to do. This is one of the reasons I'm so sort of I know all the technical sides of things because at a certain point I just started losing white people. They just wouldn't come to the hood, so I had to learn how to load the camera myself and shoot. And I became my own DP, my own edit, everything. And so I became technically proficient doing that. But yeah, I became that guy. The funny story is that, so I did a year and a half of that in the hood, and I did like 30 videos there, right? And a couple years later, I go back to shoot a Scarface video, like this around year 2000. So now we got an actual budget. I think the video was like $350,000, and the most I ever spent on video back then was like $20,000. So I go back to the thing, and we have a full-on crew. The race relations were a little bit different in 2000 versus like 1992.
And
right?
You noticed it when you went back.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like a lot of I flew in some professional crew, and the AD was a white guy, and he was scared as fuck. He was like in that neighborhood. Like he was like, and here's a really funny thing. So we're on a shot maker. Like I'm sitting on top, and like where the car's being dragged, and the neighborhood's watching, of course. And by this time, actually, the neighborhood knows who I am, not because I'm famous, because they just remember me.
All right.
So I'm like integrated into neighborhoods. I'm very comfortable now. Right. And as we're pulling the shot maker, suddenly an old black woman starts running after the car. And I swear to God, this is a true story. The white AD goes, pick up, hurry up. Drive. What the fuck? And she runs up to him and she looks at the AD and pulls out a leather thing. She goes, your wallet.
Oh, shit. The AD was terrified of this old black lady? Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing. And so like as you've seen that, the budgets, you went from like low budgets to you were in the history of the music industry where it reached highest levels of budgets.
Yeah.
And what did you see? Like, how did you navigate through that, having that much money to deal with? Was it essentially more easier, harder? Like, how did that get?
Sometimes I think that the money keeps getting. I feel like the money has been in stasis for the last 20 years on a weird level. Mm-hmm. I think there's a certain. I think inflation has pushed everything forward, but I don't think people are spending more money than they ever have. I think people are definitely spending less than they ever have.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
But for me, I've always been on the cusp of like maximizing the budget. It's where I come from. Yeah. So even when I had big budget videos, I would never sort of like were profligate like other directors,
right? Because
I came from like rap videos, so I'm always trying to find ways to maximize the dollar. Like for instance, like if I use a dolly in this shot, that'll cost me $500 for that dolly. Plus, I got to rent the guy to get it, and then it's got to be put on a truck. And so, can I do it without a dolly?
Yeah.
Like just always trying to find really clever ways to get your money up on screen. So even though I was doing $1 million videos, I think the look would always look like way more than I spent.
What's the least amount of money you spent on a video and the most amount of money you spent on a video?
The least amount of money is probably like $40.
$40? What the fuck? And
Yeah, like that's my early days. That's what I would do videos for.
And this was for like a rapper, like
a rapper,
like a legit rapper.
A legit rapper. I'd like $40. I would just, and what I would do is I would sneak into University of Houston and shoot in their studio and become friends with everyone and shoot there. And then for editing, I would go into like a National Endowment of Arts Center and use their 3/4 machines and edit there. And that's how I'd make that video.
And that's not like $40 was a lot back then. That was still a little back then.
I remember like my first video I ever did that I got a decent amount of money. I think it was like for $13,000, and that was like my first legit big budget video. But I had planned everything out, and I put a budget together, and I was like, okay, camera says $50, so I could start calling people around. They go, no, my rate's $250, right?
Yeah.
So I totally screwed myself on that. And then the funny thing is that I was shooting in Houston, and I suddenly realized that there are no places to develop film in Houston. It was Dallas, which is a 6-hour drive away.
Oh shit!
So I would drive a car, which I couldn't even rent myself. I had to get someone 25 years old to rent that car for me, and then I would have to drive it. And I remember like driving the car, and then halfway through there, I stopped at an Olive Garden, and that was like the money for me. That was like, I made it. I'm eating at Olive Garden, but sleeping in the car overnight.
Give me more rolls, shit. Yeah. What's the highest budget joint you've ever done?
Oh, easily like $5 million, something like that.
$5 million video. That is insane, dude. And I mean, but it's like it's also, you know, more money doesn't guarantee more views and more success on each video, right?
Yeah, it does.
It
does.
Well, maybe for you, because you'll maximize the shit out of it for views. But yeah, I mean,
every time you spend a lot of money on a video, if you put it in the right director's hands, it will cause an explosion. But you got to be clever about it, right? You can't just spend $5 million and expect people to watch it. What that $5 million is saying is, I can do anything I want.
Right.
I can attract you to this thing.
Yeah.
Watch me go.
Yeah, getting shots that like no one could probably get unless you had the money. Yeah.
Ideas.
I would say you have the craziest kind of spectrum of like artists you've worked with, going from Scarface, Ghetto Boys to Taylor Swift.
I think they're kind of the same.
That's I don't know your theory behind that,
I
but
think they're both gangster in their own way.
I mean, with that much money, you can do a lot of gangster things.
Dude, I'll tell you one thing. I'd be more afraid of Taylor Swift mad at you than Scarface.
Why? What would Taylor Swift do?
Well, she's worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
That's true.
Never have somebody that's worth hundreds of millions of dollars mad at you.
That is a very good point. She can easily put a hit on me, and no one would know I disappeared.
Costs like $5,000 to kill somebody.
Jesus Christ. We'll edit that out so you won't get incriminated like Tekashi. Now, okay, let's talk about the film. So with the tension, so your first film that you worked on was Torque. And how did that feel, getting your first like feature from like all the music videos and commercial stuff you were doing, you know?
It's weird shit, man, because when I did Torque, like there's different heights of hotness you get in Hollywood, and it happens all the time. And what happens in Hollywood is that you do something and you become the it person for literally like 3 months. And then it dissipates, and people then forget you're the it person. And then you got to build yourself back up. And so I've had it moments over and over and over. Like Torque was a moment, like before I shot Torque, you know, I've had moments like where I did that Power Ranger short, or like different things. I've been able to create moments, right?
Was the Torque a moment of like the height of your music video directing career that brought you to that moment?
At that point, yeah, because I'd been winning like MTV awards and like, you know, I was doing like 10 videos a month or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And so I had this attitude like, Torque, I can take it or leave it. Like literally, like most directors go in there like, gimme the job. And I was more like, yeah, if I do it, cool, but I'll do it my way.
Yeah.
And so I actually turned down the movie like 2 times.
Damn.
I remember one time the producer called me and goes, Joseph, do you want to do this movie? I go, no. And he hung up, right?
Yeah.
And then they came back to me. And I think Hype Williams was supposed to do the movie for me, right? And he dropped out. So finally, I just went in there and I pitched my idea, and I said I was going to do a really funny version of a Fast and Furious movie. Because here's the thing, like, you're that dude, right? You're that Asian dude that loves the fucking Civic with the rice rocket with the big speaker in the back.
Yeah.
Like, that's you. That's not me. I'm the dude.
First of all, that's not me either. All right. I like how you just judged the shit out of me. Another Korean dude right in front of you. No. But that really isn't me. But I mean, at the time, it was the world for a lot of people. You know what I mean? For sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was just like the shit. Like it was really just pop culture.
But I'm just saying,
general.
like for me, like that's not the Asian dude I was.
Right. You're like the furthest away from that.
I'm like I could have been a doctor. Like I was like literally one step away from being a scientist.
Yeah.
And to this day, I still read like pop science stuff.
Now you're just an opinionated doctor.
Yeah. So like they're telling me to like make this fucking rice rocket movie, and I'm like, okay, cool. I fucking hate rice rockets.
Right.
I think the culture is stupid as fuck.
But
I'll be honest with you.
But I feel like that colorfulness of that world, it kind of did make sense for them to probably reach out to you, right? The style of
they thought what they were getting was a hip hop guy. Like
Right.
they thought I was from the street, and this is what I represented. But I'm more like a ironic, like sarcastic, satiric dude about this stuff.
But I feel like that goes hand in hand almost with the culture as well. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know if that's a part of the culture. I'm not part of it. I was just like making fun of it, right?
But it's like I feel like the culture kind of it just somehow just worked in the worlds where you clashed with what you did and the world of hip hop.
It didn't work
because
when it came out.
It worked with Eminem, like what you did with Eminem.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Eminem, like I understand that thing because I understand the critique part of him, and that speaks to me in like an artistic soul.
Right.
But the Fast and Furious world where you take the shit completely seriously.
Right.
Where a man in a muscle t-shirt can walk out flexing his muscles and then step in a car and beat another man in a car. That shit is alien to me.
Right.
So when I made the movie, I wanted to make fun of that whole thing.
On Torque.
Yeah. So I wanted to like just take that culture and ramp it to 10,
Yeah,
make the people more beautiful than you've ever
It's like
seen.
on steroids.
Like if a car could jump one thing, like in Fast and Furious, I was going to jump a train and on that. And I just wanted to do everything on steroids and make the most like. And also, here's the other thing. I was really into Andy Warhol at the time. There was an Andy Warhol exhibit that was playing and I was like, this is the sort of stupidity of youth. I was just so arrogant. I was like, yeah, I'm the new Andy Warhol, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like, yeah, that's what I do. I do pop culture, and he takes like things that you see and repeats them over and over again until they become art, right?
Yeah.
Or like there's new meaning in it. So I was like, that's what I do. I take like real pop shit and just repeat it and then flip it and subvert it. Some of it may be true, but the director shouldn't say that or think that. Right. So anyways, when I did Torque, I was like, okay, so these Pepsi ads that you see in all these movies, I'm just going to repeat them over and over again like Andy Warhol. And then I'm going to then eventually accumulate into a fight in between Pepsi billboards.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. When the movie finally came out, and I thought like, holy shit, I've got this total fucking awesome subversive movie that looks serious, but it's like so over the top.
Yeah.
That people are gonna fucking call me a genius and love it, right? It was the exact opposite. People were like, "Why the fuck are they selling me this Pepsi over and over again?"
Yeah.
People thought they're calling me out on shit that I thought was a joke, but they took it completely because the people that watch it take this shit seriously.
Right. That's true.
So who's the audience for a guy that made this Japanese anime satiric fucking like over the top like biker movie starring Ice Cube?
Yeah.
One person, me.
Do you think people would get it more now?
They do. If you ever look at like certain websites, now Cult is like a total cult movie.
You mean like something like XXX movies, like that kind of shit?
No, it's different. I think people even recognize Torque is different than those movies.
Right. You think those aren't over the top enough?
No,
maybe?
there's been plenty of think pieces written about Torque now. It's funny, like I'm getting validated on the work, but 10 years later when it doesn't fucking matter,
Maybe it's because they've seen your other work after Torque.
Well, I mean, for instance, Power Rangers was a more successful version of what I was trying to do with Torque, right?
Right.
Like I don't. Did you ever see that thing?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So let's talk about that. Power Rangers was a fan fiction movie you made, just like like a way darker Power Rangers. What was the motivation behind that?
I was originally going to go make a science fiction movie. Then I was meeting with Adi Shankar, who became my friend.
Yeah.
And he said, you should do it on Power Rangers. Because Adi is like really into violent movies. Like that's his thing. I'm not. Like I could give a shit about violent movies. But he's really into like pop culture stuff like anime and Power Rangers.
Right.
I mean, that's his millennial age bracket thing.
Right.
And he said, let's do it. So Adi really wanted to make like a serious dark version of the Power Rangers, but he was very serious about it, right? Because he did that with the Punisher, with the Thomas Jane thing, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So he sent me like an initial draft of a script, which that someone else wrote, and I didn't like it. So what I did is I just threw it away and rewrote my own 15-minute version of it, right? But what I wanted to do is I wanted to make something that was just so dark, so serious, execute it so flawlessly, like serious, that by the time you watch it, you're like, I just watched Power Rangers blow people's brains out. Do coke and fuck hookers. And I took it completely serious, and that's the satire. Not give the audience one wink at all, but just do it, and then at the end of it, the absurdity of what you just watched is the joke in it, which is essentially Torque, right?
I mean, you're a big pop culture fan as well, though, right? I mean, you talked about Adi being into the millennial stuff, but you are very pop. Like you're into all around pop culture.
I guess so, but here's the thing: like, I used to pride myself on the fact that I knew so much about pop culture, but the reality is, with the internet, the value of being able to have access to pop culture is no longer as interesting as it was, like, say, pre-internet. Pre-internet, the guy that walked around and said, "I know this album, that album." And I have a recollection of what this person did in 1962. You
have to be really like curious and thirsty for that information.
You had to really look that shit out. And now Wikipedia has made it so easy, and the internet has made it easy. Like, just accumulating memory is nothing.
You don't feel like that cool about it. I agree though. I mean, I was a collector of many things during that time. Now it's not really that hard. To collect.
Anybody can do that. But so what now? The more interesting thing, I think, is what can you apply with that knowledge? What's the ultimate takeaway with all that mechanism that you've been able to put in your brain? And that's what I've been doing more of lately. It's less about like the breadth of what you're watching, but the specificity of what you're getting out of it. And that's all my research lately.
Well, I mean, talking about research, I mean, one of the biggest films and biggest projects that you've researched a lot was Bodied, the newest movie newest project that you worked on. And this is like, it's interesting because I've met you 8 years ago when we talked about battle raps, and you were watching these guys and this guy, and you were like truly a fan. And me seeing Bodied after it was complete, I was like, oh shit, this is like a serious fan of this culture's movie. I mean, you even went out the way to work with a writer that's an actual battle rapper. It literally throw in every battle rap dude in there, and low cameos from league hosts and shit like that you didn't even have to do. You know what I'm saying? But there's like a whole like ending area where just people, like every person coming up to the bar is like somebody who's from the culture. I mean, why was it important for you to like literally have every single person in that shit? Like,
I wanted to take a snapshot of battle rap in this period of time. And this period of time is about like a 10-year period, an accumulation of everything that's happened in Grind Time and King of the Dot and URL and just sort of Scribble Jam and WRC, just sort of put it into an amalgamation, because the league that we do in the movie doesn't really exist.
Right.
It seems to be a fusion of all the different leagues.
I get that, yeah.
And that was done on purpose. And I think the aficionados of battle rap that don't look at it from a point of view of a movie will go, well, he wasn't completely accurate. But it's impossible to be accurate, because then you'd have to really pick one particular league.
It's like every movie, It's like you can't get it exactly. It's not going to please everybody either.
Yeah. It's an amalgamation for story points. But ultimately, I felt like there's such a wealth of personalities that are fascinating at this point in time. It really feels like the NBA, like when Jordan was playing. And there's just like these big personalities, and I think the NBA today now, like it took a while. There's a little period where it's like I wasn't that interested in the NBA, but now it's come back with Steph Curry and LeBron and James Harden and all that. Well,
the stars of it, yeah.
The battle rap period right now seems to be just flush, and you're one of those guys. Like, you're absolutely like a legendary person in battle rap.
I think we just kind of settled into, now there is an actual like culture with leagues and Hall of Famers, things like that, that we never had before.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's amazing. I noticed watching the movie too. It was really interesting. It kind of helped me understand like that this has come that far too. Looking like, if you watch the movie and knowing like, oh, that's him and that's that, like we would never have been able to do that before. Like in 8 Mile, you had I remember like they were talking about how Eminem was battling in Detroit, and all the scenes he had like in between takes was like with real battle rappers in Detroit, you know. But that was like a local thing. Like Marv One was in a scene, you know what I mean? Like, but like now it's like you could actually watch that and you know watch this movie and you can know like who's who.
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure there's a time capsule of it. Unfortunately, you know how much battle rap is just full of haters. You know, it's just it's the art form, right?
It is. Yeah.
It's like that's part of what you're supposed to hate on somebody, right? So there's no way I was going to be able to get all of battle rap in there. I mean, and remember, this is again self-financed. This is all I'm on the hook. Did the same shit I did on Detention, and every time I flew a battle rapper in, and I shot here in LA, and I flew a lot of these guys in from other places. That's like me writing out checks for $5,000-$6,000, you know. Right. To get those guys, feed them, put them in hotels, drive them around, get them on set, pay them, and then get them home. So
I assure you, everyone who's actually in the movie is not hating. I could give a fuck. No, I could give a no. It's no, dude. You did really well of including mad people. Like, bro, you damn near included 80% of the motherfuckers. I think that's pretty fucking good considering there's like fucking over 100 leagues across the fucking world and shit. You know what I mean?
It was tough trying to whittle that shit down, and so ultimately. A lot of my decisions were made by who's right for the role.
Right.
You know, because it's not that people just randomly like pop in for no reason. Like for instance, I put Thesaurus and Ilmac in there as a on the 2-on-2 commenting.
Right.
Because I thought that was hilarious.
That was good. Yeah.
You know.
For that.
And because they're the 2-on-2 champs, and like their comments are like 2-on-2s, right?
Right.
I mean, obviously, and there's like 2 roles where literally I could not write for any other motherfucker.
Yeah.
One was obviously Disaster. Like the way that role was written. And here's the thing. Like, I'm so glad that Disaster exists.
Right.
Because this movie, ultimately, if you watch it closely, there's a big commentary about, like, cultural appropriation and can white guys, you know, if they can rap or should they rap and all that other stuff. But ultimately, if you watch the thing, like, he has to fight, like, 2 big guys at the end. But if he had to fight, like, I don't want to give the movie away, but he has to fight one black guy. Then he has to go fight another black guy. I think black culture would just give up on the movie, you know.
Well, I also like how like Disaster kind of doesn't come off as a white guy. He really comes off as a Middle Eastern dude.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it's like he comes off very specifically to his ethnicity. Like,
I know Disaster makes fun or tries to own the whole terrorist shit and stuff like that. Like, and it's a love hate for him, but he really does come off like a goddamn terrorist. You know?
I mean, I just love that it's so specifically that. You know, his like he plays this villain so specifically to that. I mean, he does that in real life. Like, I mean, you know, Diz is like Diz in real life too. He's not that far from his character, but he's also kind of a sweetheart too. You know what I mean? Like he can be like chill.
He is, and the funny thing is, I think when I was calling around to see about if I should work with this with Diz, and I was like, what's he like? I think that you or Twist told me. Well, this is like walking battle rap. He doesn't do anything but battle rap. There's nothing else to him, you know. Like so, I was like, okay, this isn't going to be interesting.
Yeah, no, we everything we talk about will lead to battle rap at the end of the road.
But the other person that was written only for one person was your character. You know, like
that made it easy for me to act in it.
But here's the fucking thing. I remember like when I made Detention, like, and I was like inviting you to come down to South by South. You were there. You didn't even come to the goddamn premiere. You're like just floating around the street doing other shit.
I was there. Was I at the premiere?
No, you weren't. You were like running around. I was just like, you're just a weird dude. Like, I don't know what's going on. And then I remember like I sent you the script to Bodied, right? And you didn't get back to me for like 2 months.
I did take a long time to read it, and actually that could have been a huge mistake on my part. Like I feel like I'm gonna end up I could have ended up on a podcast years later, like. That could have been my way into the industry.
I was literally starting to audition other Asian dudes going, what the fuck is up with this dude?
Yeah, I know.
What took you so goddamn long?
I remember I found out about this shit through a panel I was in with Jin, and Jin was like, yeah, I auditioned for the role, and I was like, nah, this is Dub's part. I shouldn't be doing this. And I was like, what the fuck? You auditioned for the role?
Then get back to me. What were you doing?
No, I'm learning how to I think that's my part of being a rapper and not being punctual with these kind of things, and I'm learning how to do that more.
Yeah,
and
but
more.
punctuality is like 2 or 3 days. Like you were like 2 months, dude.
God damn, now I just feel shitty as fuck. I feel you. I thank you for the opportunity. I mean, I love how this is definitely one of the most interesting projects I think I'll ever be a part of. You know what I mean? And I really wish that we could. I mean, the limited theater run was great. It was just turnouts was great. I wish it could have been in more theaters and more people could have seen it, but
But you know what? It was never meant to be. Like it was always meant to be like you don't like release a theaters thing like on November 8th and then go streaming November 28th and plan it out that way unless you're just it was always meant to be like, here's a limited run.
Right.
Let's get all our reviews in and get people knowing about it and then go streaming. Because here's the thing, if we didn't release in theaters, the New York Times would have never written that article about us.
True.
We would not get that great review from the New York Times because they don't write about streaming stuff.
Right.
So that's the whole point of the streaming thing.
I think also the write-ups are coming from like an impact, like a cultural impact point, right? Like Crazy Rich Asians, like people talk about that because it has a cultural impact more than just like a film, you know what I mean? So it's like, I think that's important. I think that's why I had my journalist homies hitting me up like, yo, I want to write about this shit.
I think that we as people in the battle rap world, we did great on our limited run.
Right.
You know, we hit a bunch of theaters. It got so much buzz. People fucking came and watched. And this was no advertising whatsoever. Did you see a television ad for Bodied? No. Did you see a billboard for Bodied? No. See anything for Bodied? No. This is all word of mouth, and we got like thousands of dollars a theater opening weekend. So that's pretty impressive. So that tells me that, like, for instance, if they ever had chosen to do a real run with like real advertising and put that shit out, I mean, we could have been $100 million movie easily.
Our only marketing was we just had Diz stand on the corner of Hollywood and Highland just yelling at people's faces. No, but I'm really excited because the streaming it's coming out, not premiering, on YouTube Premium today. So everybody go on youtube.com. And what's the process like for people to watch the film?
Dude, just sign up, put your credit card down, and then just fucking cancel it.
It's like 30 days free, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then you can, but you got to put a credit card down. You can cancel afterwards, whatever. But I'd stick around and watch Cobra Kai or some shit.
There's going to be other drops, but please support the film, watch this shit. But I'm stoked. I mean, I'm actually more stoked about this, like, YouTube premium kind of release, because now it's like I can tell people you can watch it. You don't got to go to the limited theater or whatever.
Well, I think there's going to be two branches of it, right? The first part is for a year it's going to be on YouTube Premium. So that's going to be till 2019. Then after that, you're going to Blu-ray and DVD, and then maybe in 2001, maybe they may even do it for free on YouTube. But you got to wait 2 years, so don't wait on that shit, right?
Yeah.
So there might be another opportunity after that we can even just promote it and get everybody to see it. After all, literally everybody.
One day when everybody just stops like being a little bitch about shit, it's going to be on TV, network TV. Yeah. I don't know how they're going to censor all the shit that's in it though.
There's no way. It can't be on network TV. That shit's too crazy.
We were also talking about this. Like, this is like a great format for like television, right? Mm-hmm. Like TV. Yeah. Like, I would love to see a TV show like this, especially because I want to have a job.
Yeah.
But I mean, what are your thoughts about that? Like, it does kind of make sense to me when I watched a movie like that.
Well, Alex, Kid Twist, and I, we actually have a sort of an arc mapped out for a TV show.
Sick.
Yeah, you're in it.
That's amazing. And you mean like an arc, like a season arc?
A season, and we want to go into like different stories of different battle rappers, give them episodes, and then have it interface with each other, and then actually see a really bloody battle at the end. But the problem is YouTube, even though they signed on, I think there's a lot of executives at YouTube, they're still afraid of our movie because of the language.
Right.
And I mean, it's a tough movie. And I don't blame them. Yeah. Like they're a corporation. They're a huge corporation. Yeah. They're Google.
Right.
They're worth, $800 billion.
Yeah.
They don't need this foul-mouthed movie.
They're not willing to risk it all for a battle rap movie.
Mucking up the works, right?
Right.
So if we did do a TV, we might have to take it somewhere else. But even at that, like, where else is somewhere else, considering that, battle rap is grimy.
So, you're thinking it could be problematic for any network, right?
Yeah, it's just the nature of that's why this stuff seems to work really well, on YouTube when it's like unaffiliated. It's just under other people's own channels.
Right.
So I don't know. We'll figure it out. My media empire is still building.
Yeah. I mean, just speaking of that, like we were talking about, in the last only year or two, it's been like a crazy boom for Asian Americans in Hollywood, right? Mm-hmm. Like, have you experienced that firsthand? I mean, first of all, you're one of the few Asian Americans that didn't kind of need the boom. Like, you've been on for a minute. But have you felt that maybe for yourself? Like, people might want to work on more projects because of that boom?
I get offered Asian shit, which has never been my thing, quite frankly. Yeah. I have interest in Asian stuff, but only if it actually interests me. Like, for instance, you you know,
Yeah.
and everything I've written for you, that's been from a legitimate place. So it's not that I'm trying to say like put my foot in the door with Asian stuff.
Yeah.
It's just that I'm just intrigued by the perspective of.
God damn, I love this guy, man. I'm all for you doing that. No. But that's amazing. I mean, honestly, that's one thing I had a huge respect for you about. You know, I think here's the thing. I think we're both very passionate about Asian Americans and doing, because that's us. You know, we're gonna do it. But you've always mentioned that that's not how you should chase after those things. You know, you got to prove yourself even way before that. And that doesn't mean just because you don't talk about it or whatever, you're not passionate about it. I think if anything, we're some of the most passionate about these things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, like it's less about like Asian American as a group, but more from a personal experience point of view, experiential. You know, my Asianness has definitely influenced my work. But I don't look at it from the point of view I'm a collective person with everybody else. It's like I'm an individual that had a series of experiences. Like I grew up in the 80s as an Asian dude. Of course, I've had some rough times and interesting times and like beautiful like perspectives that come out of it. But I don't try to like template it into everyone else's experience.
Right.
If you can relate to it, that's great. But I hope that other Asians are not the only people that can relate to my experience. But there's a universal truth underneath it that all people from all different cultures somehow are able to do it. And that's why I feel I am so successful in pop music, because I try, like, it's funny, other directors go in there and they try to demographically isolate things. Like, I only do, like, rap videos, or I do this or that. And obviously, through my history, I've been more expansionist and integrationist. Like, try to like, throw rap ideas into pop videos, throw pop ideas into rap videos.
Right.
Because I feel at the end of the day, underneath all this sort of dysphoria type of separating of people into tribes, we are all human beings, and underneath it, there are universal truths, and that's what I try to get at more than anything else.
Right. Yeah. No, I feel you. I do think there's a lot of ignorant people within this Asian American like movement, militant mentality, because they don't understand that there's different types of Asian Americans that grew up differently as well. You know, and I hate that kind of, you see these like dudes on the internet going this way, like, you ain't for us. I'm like, bro, like, what do you mean us? Like, motherfuckers grew up differently too. You know, the way you grew up, I grew up, we grew up differently, you know, but.
And I think it's also kind of dishonest to what the Asian American experience is.
That's true, yeah.
Because obviously, number one, let's branch it into two things. There's the Asian experience and there's the Asian American experience. Those two things are completely different.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
You know? Like that's something people don't talk about, but that is absolutely true.
That's some shit that non-Asian people like never kind of can get. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This shit is crazy.
Okay, and let's break it down even further. Then there's the Asian Americans in media versus the Asian Americans in everything else. You know?
Right.
Statistically, we like Asian Americans like racially have different partners of different races more than any other fucking ethnic group. You know, like 50% of us like end up interracially marrying.
Right.
Statistically.
That's crazy.
That's more than anybody else. So that tells you something about the way Asian Americans think, right?
Right.
The second thing is a good chunk of Asians like that don't go into media. They're conservative. You know, like you ever look at like some of these red state voters? It's like fucking Asian dudes, like doctors and lawyers and shit like that. So like that particular group of Asians are never ever talked about. Like, but they're such a big, significant part of the Asian American experience. I feel like we're being dishonest if we don't like at least look into what's going on there. Right.
I feel you.
And then here's the other thing that's very interesting. Even within like sort of the Asian Americans in Hollywood, there's a huge difference between Asian American males and Asian American females. Their experiences, even though they share cultural similarities, have completely different outcomes. For instance, Asian American females live in a world where they want to be procured, right? People lust after them, you know. They're kind of like look at a dating apps. If you ever like look at like the actual statistics of dating apps, Asian American females are like at the top of the food chain.
Right.
Then you flip it over on the Asian American male side, we're literally at the bottom.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with that as well.
So you cannot say that like if you look at the way that works, that those two brackets are having the same experience. No, you're having completely different experiences.
It's true. No, for sure. So, okay, let's talk about what's the next for you? Like, I mean, I feel like right now is an interesting place for you to be in your career. You know, just putting out this recent project that's like so different and so like, I mean, exciting in general. Like, what would you like to do next?
I don't know. It's funny. Like I've achieved like creative bursts of cool stuff before, that I've been personally very proud of. But this is the first time that I've actually gotten critical acclaim for something.
Right.
Bodied's got like a super fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and I mean like that that beats my other shit
Here's
by a
the
mile.
Acclaim, a masterpiece, a cinematic bombshell, fearless.
Well, let's put it this way: Torque had like a 22% on Rotten Tomatoes. Detention had like a 44%. We're like at 88% on.
That shit is so tight.
So we're doubling up. So whatever I do next is going to be like 160%.
Yeah,
it's gonna be amazing.
You're trying to go in.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like you have to. Like some of all your movies are, whether some people like it or not, there's a lot of shit in it. There's a lot of content, dialogue, whatever. It's, snappy. Like, there's a lot of things in it. You got to pay attention, and it's definitely, it's very you. I got to say that. So, no, I'm excited, man. I'm excited to be a part of your next project as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm speaking into existence, manifesting destiny. Joseph, thank you so much for coming, man. I appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. Hey, YouTube Premium, out right now. Please support. If you support me, you will support this movie. Make an account. Get your mom's credit card out of her purse. Make an account. You could delete it in 30 days or so, or just stick around and look out for more movies and dumbfounded battles on YouTube Premium. All right, peace.
Cafe.